women feel like they have to apologize for putting themselves first. Like, oh, I'm so sorry, I have to go pick up the kids. Or I'm so like, I need to, oh, I can't quite. And we feel apologetic and bad. And do you see when guys are like, hey, I have a hard stop at 5?
Yeah.
Or, I'm
And they don't
going
even
to
tell
miss
us
that
where we're
meeting, but
going. We want to
exactly,
over-explain and give every detail
exactly,
to justify
exactly.
anything that we're
Right.
doing that's not compliant with what is needed in that moment professionally.
100%. Right. So we got to stop apologizing and just state the facts. Like, I have a hard stop here. I can't make that meeting.
Welcome to the She's So Sweet podcast, where we interview accomplished women who have worked their way to the C-suite. I'm your host, Kristi Faltorusso, Chief Customer Officer and award-winning customer success executive. I am thrilled to introduce our guest today, somebody I've been following along on their journey for years now. I've got the one and only Sydney Sloan, who's a CMO at G2. Sydney, welcome to our show.
Thank you. I'm so excited for this. This is going to be a fun one.
I am excited to get like a front row seat to your story. So for me, I'm like sitting here with like, my popcorn getting ready.
Okay.
So Sydney, before we jump in, why don't we set the tone by telling everybody a little bit about yourself? So obviously you're the CMO at G2. Let's kind of set the stage. Tell us about you.
Yeah, I'd say I grew up at Adobe. So I had a pretty long tenure, that people don't generally have anymore, but I think it was like 15 years, mostly in product marketing and events is where I started. But it was great. It was global. People loved Adobe. I jumped around to a bunch of different product areas and really got to learn a lot about go to market, the business. And then it was interesting. The last job I had, which I was laid off from, believe it or not, after 17 years. We can go there. I decided I wanted to go be the practitioner for the persona that we were going after. So I went to a SaaS company back in 2011, right when SaaS was starting, and it was called Jive, and I led the customer experience team, which was really exciting. I think we were talking NRR back in 2012, which was way ahead of the times, I believe. And interestingly enough, I went from that job, which I was a senior director, to a CMO role. Like, I was never a VP, and so I had an awesome.
Oh, you skipped that whole middle management.
I skipped that whole middle. I did, and it was kind of crazy. I mean, it was just like right place, right time. I had the industry depth, which is what I advise people on. So I went to a company called Alfresco, and I'd been doing content and collaboration for most of my career. And so it's a great story. Doug Dennerlein, who's just he was the CEO, we hit it off, and then they were like, well, she's never been a VP. Maybe she shouldn't. And he's like, no, this is the job we're hiring for. She deserves it. And so they questioned it, but then that was my first CMO gig a little over 10 years ago. And then I got great advice from a CRO friend of mine that said, the first time it is you get the job, everybody understands, right? Like, you finally got the job, the C title. The next move you make really tells a lot about yourself as to the company you select. That's going to mean the most the next time. And so I took a lot of time to figure out what I wanted to do next. And sales tech was kind of becoming what MarTech had been at the time. This is like 2018. And Outreach, SalesLoft, and Clary had all taken their C round. They were all looking for CMOs. And I was like, okay, that's the space I want to be in. And I chose SalesLoft for the culture and the development for leadership, which is exactly what I got. They were an employee first company, which was amazing. So did about 4 years there till our exit. Took a break, went into venture capital. Definitely needed it. Totally burned out. And because that was like during the pandemic as well. And I had 2 teenage kids at home. I needed a year and a half off to like recharge the battery just a little bit.
A year and a half, is that even enough time to recover from some of these roles that we've all held?
No. And there's a hidden story in there that I actually left SalesLoft and went to Zoom, but I only stayed for 3 months because I was like, I can't do this. I don't even have that on my LinkedIn. I had to gracefully bow out, which I felt guilty about, but it was the right thing for me. And then, I decided to get back in. I tried security. I mean, we know like that sector is hot and it's got a lot of funding, and it was a super high growth company that was very exciting. And like, I went against my gut there. Like, I've always said, no, I like application layer, business context. And I went into security. I just couldn't find the passion for the problem. And so that was a quick in and out. And then I've been at G2 for the last year and a half, back with my people. I say, I love it because I'm like at the forefront of the industry and watching industry shape and form, like the AEO category right now. It's like crazy. And yet also, working with companies, other CMOs, building their brand. And so it's been really fun to be back in that conversation. But that's it. That's where I'm at.
You've had quite the ride, and we're going to dig into that. But Sydney, we got to rewind for a second, because I always like to hear where people's journeys originate. And oftentimes that's in our heads and things that we decide we want to be when we're very little. And then none of that usually comes to fruition. Or there's some detour in the storyline that takes a different shape. So I want you to think back as far back as you can remember. What did little Sydney think that she was going to be when she grew up?
Well, little Sydney was a very precocious little girl. And that was a word I didn't understand until later. And my dad had this bumper sticker on the back of his truck that said, "Get it the same way I did, work for it." And I grew up in a cattle ranch. So I grew up in a very small town and in Northeast Washington State, right on the Canadian border. And so when I was little, I mean, like there wasn't much in the town. It was like First and Main was the only stoplight. And, but I loved going to the grocery store, which we didn't do very often because we were on a farm. So we were living off the land. And oh my God, I wanted to be the Safeway checkout lady. It's like so great, and scanning things. And I mean, I had a setup in my garage, or the basement where the play, so I'd pretend, I mean, like we all do, right? When you're little. So yeah, that's what I wanted to be. I guess that's business, really.
I mean, there's money involved, and
there's money,
and there's customer service involved.
Adding, subtracting,
we need to acknowledge the fact that there's a lot of great skills that can be developed from
customer service,
like
right? Yeah.
I mean, listen, I started my career working in bakeries at 10 years old is when I started, because my parents owned a business, and that was my first job because they didn't have a babysitter. So it was like, okay, they went to go pick up the bread for the deli. They dropped me off there to go make boxes and clean windows and help wherever I could. And that's how it starts. So
I started by selling sweet corn on the side of the highway when I was 13.
I mean, I'm sure it was your sweet corn, right? The corn that you grew on the farm.
I picked it out of the, and I drove the truck, and I was 13.
You were the original farmer's market. So you were like,
just
you were cool before you were cool before farmers markets were even cool. You started.
But I just wanted everything from the grocery store. That's right. Exactly.
Okay. So obviously we've come a long way from that, and you've shared a bit of your journey. So I want to reflect for a moment, because I know that there's always a lot of pivotal moments in our career paths that get us to where we are. So I want you to reflect back for a second. Share with us, what were some of the most pivotal moments or decisions that you made in your career that you feel like contributed to your ascent to the C-suite?
I think there were a few things. I always raised my hand, whether or not it was in my lane or not. Like I wanted to be involved in where the things were happening. And so if that meant project managing or, like setting up, like I didn't care. I just wanted to be in the room. It reminds me of a story when we were at Jive. We had hired McKinsey. We had a new president that came in. We hired McKinsey Consulting, and they were doing this huge project. And I volunteered to be, and I was a director of customer marketing. And I volunteered to be the project lead. And so that was what set the strategy for the company. We did all this research. I got to like work in the, and it was just like, I think taking advantage of moments like that. And I would say the second thing, and I was thinking about this when I saw your question, very early in my career. So I started as an event planner. Like I went to USC, did the entrepreneur program, wrote a business plan on entrepreneur on it was called Evention. So I wrote my business plan on event planning company. I was already an intern at Nestle in their events department, Special Events Magazine in their events department. I worked for our events. So I thought I wanted to have an events company. And so that's how I got into tech. Was I was an event planner for a tech company way back in the day. And I made a pivot maybe 4 or 5 years in. It's a good story. I was never afraid to talk to customers at trade shows, do the demos, do the presentations. I didn't just set up the booth and let everybody else do the work. So I was there. I knew all our competitors. So when we were at our team meetings, people would say, "Oh, customers want this, customers want that," our competitor. And I'm like, "No, they don't." Like, and I, again, precocious still was. And so I would bring my point of view to the table of what customers wanted, because I'm sitting here doing demos, I'm talking to them. And my leader at the time was like, "You should really be in product marketing." And so I remember the very first time I was at our kickoff, I'd always been the planner, making sure everybody was having fun and a good time and being very organized. And now I was presenting, and I had to like get them to change their persona of me as being the events girl to being now the product marketing person. And I really worked hard on my presentation skills and telling a great story. And I think that skill, I'm not afraid to stand on a big stage. I'm not afraid to communicate, complex theory. Like I really practice. And so I think public speaking has served me very well as a skill. And I would say that's definitely one of the things that got me where I am today.
Okay. So now you talked about some of the companies that you worked for going IPO or going public. And I think we talked about, was it SalesLoft that had the exit and then you took the time off?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So obviously you made a decision there that you kind of inserted a little bit of a storyline that we wouldn't be able to see on LinkedIn if we checked, is that you left SalesLoft and then you went to Zoom and then you decided to make a change and maybe give yourself some more time before you went back to work. Talk to me about that, because that's a tough decision to make. And you mentioned you were raising 2 girls at the time. So now you're a mom and you're doing this stuff and you've got exciting career path and now you're thinking about the future. Like, walk me through that, because I feel like those are some important decisions you had to make.
Yeah. I mean, roll back to the pandemic, and we're all like, trying to get at a boy and a girl, and they're teenagers in high school. And I'm like trying to just get them to log in and get out of their pajamas, and it lasted way longer than we thought. And then I also took that responsibility on for my team. So, we did a workout at the end of the day, the 5-minute workout at the end of the day, and they could bring their kids. And it was just like letting them know when the end of the day was. And I felt like I was trying to manage, my home life, carry the burden of like my team. And then I had a health issue. I actually had a spinal cord injury that paralyzed me. And so like my body shut down, like literally couldn't move. And so I think, sometimes you look back on signals. And so I came back too early. I should have taken a couple months off for recovery. I took like 3 weeks and was on calls too soon.
Wow.
Lesson learned. And that year we were doing a rebrand and it was awesome. It was literally the best rebrand. Like it was so great, but it was nights and weekends. And, I've just continued to give. And a week or two before the launch, I got calls from LinkedIn, Zoom. Like I got like 3 big public company calls. And I was like, maybe this is a sign that, I can go back to big companies. So I started my career at Adobe. Then I went to smaller, 100 million plus companies. And that's my bookend, right? Like I'll, end my career at a great company with great, brand. And it was a tough job. It was running product marketing globally. And I convinced myself like that was a good thing for me. And then I left. I'd already given my notice, not knowing that SalesLoft was going to be bought by Vista. So instead of slow rolling out, we were actually going through a transaction. Right. So I'm back and forth to Atlanta because I commuted to Atlanta every other week for 4 years from San Francisco, which was also taxing. Yeah. I mean, I just put myself out there and just always relied on my energy until I didn't have it anymore. So I started, and literally I just had negative gas in the tank. I started going to an acupuncture lady because that year and a half off that I took after the fact, it was a lot of just regaining energy, and I didn't realize how depleted it was. And I just couldn't find it where I'd always been able to find the energy before. And that was, my passion for the problem, bringing energy into the room, lifting, that's one of the things that my energy, I'm a 8-7 on an Enneagram, or I'm a DI on DISC. So the energy and enthusiasm, is part of how I'm wired. And I had nothing left. Nothing. Wow. Negative energy is what the acupuncturist told me. And so I just had to realize and And then I had my dad got sick and a couple other things. So I was just like, I can't do this. And I had to apologize because, apologize to Eric, like they took I was there for like 2 months. It's awful, but I had to do it. And I'm glad I did. And you
it's
also walk away
important to
from a lot of money. I
prioritize
mean, like
yourself.
it's really hard.
I know. I mean, listen, I'm sure this was not an easy decision for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah.
But I think it's always important to prioritize your health, right? Like
Right.
I wouldn't say always make selfish decisions and jump because I don't feel like doing my job today, right? But like you had a real reason to prioritize you. And I'm glad that you did. And I'm sure your kids are glad that you did. And I'm sure you're glad that you did.
And my parents, like that was the other thing is like I came down to take care of my dad. And at the same time, I was kind of taking care of myself. And yeah, it took longer to get back into the game than I thought. It took me 8 months once I decided to start interviewing again to find the right job. So I didn't think I was not like financially planning to be off that long,
Sure.
which then extended, how much longer I have to work. But and this is why I tell people now, like, don't come back too early, like create boundaries. I used to say when I would do a lot of advising and mentorship to women, like, you hear all this like work-life balance, work-life integration, and it's like, yeah, I traveled 50% of the time. I had little kids. Like, I definitely had help that made it easier. But I would change it. I would have changed what I did back in my 30s when I had little kids and made some different choices. For a long time, I didn't say it. I wasn't apologetic. And now as I'm like in my 50s, I'm like, yeah, actually, and I try to tell people like, take as long as off with your children as you can, right? Like if they give you 6 months paternity leave, take it. Don't sacrifice, and think that going back 2 months early is going to be more valuable in your life than 2 more months with your kids. I think that we feel as women that we have to do more, that we have to prove ourselves more. And there's a great book by Tracy Newell that I'm reading right now called Her Seat at the Table. And she talks a lot about her story. She ended up being the president of Informatica and she was at Cisco for a long time. And that same thing, it's like, you do the best you can, but don't forget yourself in the equation.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Take
tough.
care of
And I feel
yourself.
like there's also so much fear, right? So for women who are ambitious and they do want to have careers, I think there's a lot of fear also, right? Like, am I compromising my career trajectory because I'm prioritizing something over something else? And I see a lot of women delay certain life choices and decisions because of it, because they're scared. Well, if I leave now, there's a promotion coming up, so I can't do that. Or, oh my gosh, if I'm out for a year, that's going to be a huge setback. And any opportunity I would have had, I'm not going to have that again. So let me ask you this.
Or I don't want to take the promotion. Like Tracy has a great story. You don't want to take the promotion because it's going to be too hard. I'm going to be away from my family.
Right.
And so she, she was offered promotions and she turned them down. Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So I know this isn't a question about you per se, but I'm interested in your thoughts on this. If somebody came to you seeking advice and shared that fear with you, what would you say to them?
The fear of leaving, taking time. The fear of
taking time, putting things off, right? Like the fear of stepping out of the office, that it's going to be detrimental to their career.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably have them do like a side-by-side, like what is the pros and what is the cons? What are you going to gain? What might you lose? And then once you make that list and it's just free flow, don't overthink it. Like, what are the pros? What are the cons? What are my gains? What are my potential losses or risks? And then put a value to each one. And really, like, I think if you go through that process, you'll see clearly that putting time and investment in your family, in your life, right? Like I've joked that I'm going to write a book. At the end of the day, it's nothing personal. It's just business. Because when I was at Adobe for those 15 years, like I missed my grandmother's 90th birthday. I missed tons of my kids' birthdays when I was traveling. And I thought, well, I got to go. I'm so important. And then I was let go. Like, they don't care, right? Like at the end of the day, I was part of the group that was no longer a priority and they cut 75% of us. And like, it didn't matter that I sacrificed time with my family, seeing my grandmother, you know, when everybody got to see her the last time. Like, dumb, 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 dumb. Would not recommend it at all. Like, always, always prioritize your life, because that is what is going to be there at the end. And if you're strong, if you're capable, like, you'll get there, right? And one thing I did do that I feel very fortunate about is I was living in Canada when I had my kids. And so in Canada, you get a year off for you unpaid at the time, you know, so you get like, you go on unemployment and diaper money, but I mean, it's a year. And so, you know, I was able, and I'm, you know, just gonna be transparent here, to, you know, breastfeed my kids until they were 10 months, you know, and, you know, be with them day in and day out, and be their mom. And that bond, like, I don't know how women go back after 6 weeks, 8 weeks, like, you're not even in your right brain yet. And yeah, when I went off with my first daughter, they rehired someone in my role. You're guaranteed to come at, you know, and so it was really hard to come back. But actually, I got, like, when I came back, I got to do special projects and work 4 days a week. And I worked for the GM, you know, on these really cool projects. And it was like awesome. Like, then they wanted me to put me in full-time role. I'm like, gig. I was actually enjoying the special projects like a lot. The one thing that I did do during that year is I went back and I did all of the sales trainings every quarter. And I didn't do that the second time. I'm like, why did, you know, like, I just thought, you know, oh, no one else can do it, and I still need to stay involved. And the second time I was like, no, I was off. Call me in a year. And so, yeah, I mean, you can, I still did it, right? Like, you maybe, I think timing is different now too. Like, I see like people getting CMO titles in their early 30s even now. Like, I just think the world is different, and it's not like you know, before we had to put the time in and you had to prove yourself. And I don't know. I don't believe that anymore. I'm advising a lot, or mentoring a lot of awesome, amazing women who, you know, are making it to the C-suite way faster these days.
Yeah. And good for them, right? Like, I wish we would have had that ability to do that, move as quickly when we were that age. But
it makes you prioritize better too, right? And I'm sure you know this, Kristi, right? Like, you just have to prioritize more. You have to prioritize your family, be organized there, prioritize work, and make those choices and differences. And I've always said at work, but it's true in life as well, the most powerful thing that we can do is say no. It's easy to say yes.
Absolutely.
It's easy to say yes. And you know, it's always like the busiest person is like the one that, you know, like continues to take everything on. And so I'm thinking of Liz Meyer when I say that. I was just talking to her. I'm like, really? She's like, anyway, you see those people, and it's like empowering them to say no. That's powerful.
Okay. So let's talk about that for a second. What was it, or how did you get to a place where no became easier to say? Because for me, it took starting a new company and coming into an organization, starting fresh and setting those boundaries, right? I never felt comfortable pivoting when I was in the role, but I always said, like, okay, eventually I'm going to come to an organization and I'm going to set different boundaries, and I'm going to be very intentional about communicating my priorities. And I'm unwavering in that my family and my health and my wellness, my well-being, that comes first. Full stop. Yeah. I don't care. Like, obviously I care about my job and I want to be successful, and I care about the business, and I want all the things to my team to be taken care of, but I'm not going to sacrifice special important moments. And I have to differentiate, like, what is important to be at and what isn't at home, right? Like, I can't be at every soccer game, but like, what are the things I can be at and what do I have to be at? But when I've defined what those are, they're non-negotiables for me, right? I'm training for the marathon right now. My runs, like, I have to get them in. I'm going to be like, I have a timeline and a goal. So I have to do these things, right? So how did you get to a place where you felt comfortable saying no? And what was that for you?
I think it's really hard for some reason as a marketer, because everybody has an idea. And so just, I'll say in the work world, the approach that doesn't always work, but has worked best for me, because, you know, when you work for founders, it can be different. And my point of view is, you know, if people aren't informed as to what your priorities are, then their priorities become your priorities. So in like the relationships that you have, so in a C-suite or at your leadership level, like, make sure you're communicating what your priorities are and getting alignment with other people. and it makes it a lot easier to say no. Like the product team does it all the time. Here's the roadmap. Here's our backlog, and they're, maybe they're switching things around, but that's how they have limited capacity. Same thing in marketing, right? It's like, what do we take off? What do we put on? It takes 6 weeks to put a webinar together. No, I can't do it next week. Like, but having the information, the data, and then showing the current plan that you have and getting buy-in. Every now and then you still have to say yes. I think you can't always say no. And I've gotten better at that, because I used to say no way too much. And then it was just like, I felt like,
okay, you
like
swung the pendulum far the other way.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. On the life side though, and I think this is super important, that we can, like, women feel like they have to apologize for putting themselves first. So just start to, observe, like, oh, I'm so sorry, I have to go pick up the kids. Or I'm so, like, I need to, I can't quite. And we feel apologetic and bad. And do you see when guys are like, hey, I have a hard stop at 5?
Yeah.
Or, I'm going to miss that meeting.
We want to over-explain and give every detail to justify anything that we're doing that's not compliant with what is needed in that moment professionally.
100%, right? So we got to stop apologizing and just state the facts. Like, I have a hard stop here. I can't make that meeting, but here's the other thing. Hire really great people, right? Yeah. So if you can delegate, like, I can't make it, but Palmer will be there and you'll be in good hands, right? So being able to learn how to delegate, I think, is a very important skill as a leader as well, and empower your teams. I see burnout there, where it's like the senior leader feels like they have to have their hands in everything and know everything. And it's like, no, you don't. You got to have really good people, right? And stay informed on the things that matter the most, and let them run with the details. And it doesn't mean that I couldn't be in the details and be like, they don't want you in there, by the way, too. So I think, like, figuring out what level you manage at and where you kind of draw that boundary is helpful too. I don't have to review every single document that goes out the door. I trust the people to do their job. So
I think that is a really important tip for all the leaders out there. Now, okay, we've talked a lot about the challenges we've had to navigate in your career trajectory and all of these moments. But one of the things I find is that as women, especially ambitious, successful women, we're always on to the next thing, and we don't take enough time to reflect back on the successes that we've had, because we've also done a lot of great work. And so this is my forcing function for us to talk about some of the big wins you've had professionally and celebrate those together. So when you think back at your career, what were some of the most successful moments, or like your proudest accomplishments? And I'm sure your list is long.
Yeah, there's, I'll pick 2 just to like go deep. So, my last job at Adobe, I'd been running product marketing teams for, a good 10 years, and we did a merger, and then there was a new leader in place, and like my job got changed, and we were starting this new thing called like customer marketing. But we defined what it was. It wasn't just case studies. Like, we went in and we had a team of 4, and decided to, like, let's engage the most strategic accounts at Adobe. These are $10 million plus accounts. And we'll go in and we'll help organize. There were like 27 sales reps serving Nike, and they'd never talked to each other. So we picked the top 10 accounts, kind of understood, like, what do they have? Who are and like brought this insight back to the leadership team of all these strategic accounts. We didn't have an idea of a global account manager at that time, and really got in deep with the CIOs. That was our goal. This is like 2011. How do we become a top 3 provider? And so by taking that director customer marketing role and kind of redefining it to, we're going to engage with the most strategic accounts. We're going to make them successful. We're going to ensure that we have a CIO level relationship. And it just so happened at the time Ann Lunas joined, and she was the CMO there for a long time, came from Intel. It did the Intel Inside program. And her big idea was the Adobe and campaign, like the ampersand, and all the strategic accounts became part of the campaign. So we're talking like Wall Street Journal ads, like the brand of Adobe in partnership with these amazing customers that we had developed relationships with. And I mean, it was amazing, right? And it was really just taking advantage of an opportunity and defining what we wanted it to be, not necessarily what others thought it was. So that was really cool. I love that. That was like smallest team I ever had, but most impactful, right? Like size of the team does not necessarily mean impact, right?
And I love that point, because I think for
Yeah.
leaders, especially if you're in a different stage organization, it doesn't matter what level and what size organization, but sometimes we think that we need these huge teams to make a massive impact. Or, there's people that are worried about the land grab, right? Like, how many different teams or functions or things can I own? And honestly, similar to you, I have the smallest team that I've ever had professionally at my current organization. And it's the one where I've done not only the most impactful work, but the work that I'm most passionate about and the successes that I'm most proud of. So I love to hear that. I think it's a good reminder for folks. Okay, so give me your second win, big success.
My second one, I touched on it earlier. Like, I loved SalesLoft. I loved it for so many reasons. I loved being a leader there. I loved how we treated our people. I loved the relationships that we had with our customers. We sold to people like us. I mentioned the rebrand. And it was funny because I tried to do one at the beginning when I first got there, and it didn't work. Like the founder CEO was not having it. Like, changing a brand on a founder is really hard. That's like trying to rename their child.
Right.
And he's like, Kyle Porter, he's like, I'm going to have to cut down the tree in the backyard because I've got it branded. And, but the second time around, I did a better job of bringing everybody along on the journey. And like, Cindy Knezovich, who's now a CMO, like, she was my partner in crime. And the activation that we had internally and with our influencers and customers, like, we took a year to do it. And it was just such a moment, literally, like, turning off one, turning on the other. And then we took the entire company to Cancun. This was during the pandemic in September of 2020. And, 2021, and literally like had drones that had the old logo that went into the new logo. And then because we had the whole hotel, the entire hotel, became the new green, and we were blue before. I mean, it was epic.
Cool.
It was absolutely epic. Yeah. Yeah. So,
okay.
That
would really big success stories, Sydney. Like, these aren't small things. These are definitely massive ones.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a year in the making. Like, but it was so fun. And it was the right thing for the company too. So, that was fun. Yeah.
I love that. Okay. So Sydney, one of the things that I observe about you, again, you have to remember, I just watch you on social media. Like, I fangirl and I watch all of your interactions, and I watch people write posts about you and tag you in things. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I believe that this statement aligns with you and maybe your mission. But I always say empowered women empower women. And so I want to know what you're doing to go and help empower the future leaders in our space.
Yeah. After I got the second CMO title, I was at a SoulCycle class, and this man, Ben Anderson, came to me, and he did like a Renaissance learning. And he's like, recognized me. I didn't know who he was. And he's like, I'd like to coach you if you'd be open to it. And he challenged me. He's like, what do you want to do next? Like, you've done this, like, you're recognized for this thing, do you want to be a CEO? We can do that. And so I did a lot of reflection of, okay, what do I want to do next? Like, once you get at the table, like, it's super gratifying, but then it's like, well, do you have your next goal and what you want to become? And I decided that I didn't want to be a CEO. I really love what I do, but I love leading people and I love lifting people up. And so that became my new goal, was to like help empower the future leaders, and it aligned with what SalesLoft's mission was at the time. And so I got really involved in Women in Revenue, which is now like 7,000. I'm on their advisory committee, and I do an annual master mentoring coaching session on building your personal brand. And I have such amazing success stories. Like, they're actually putting a video out. We just recorded it, where, it's like a deep, like a 4-hour work, 2-hour working sessions with 6 people. And it's so great. And the women like lean in and say, here's their goals. And then they hold each other up to achieve the goals. And I just, Jane Sarah, Michelle Kim, Dino Otero, like all these amazing women that I got to meet through Women in Revenue and be part of their journey, like, has been incredible. Wise Women in Sales Everywhere. I got to do with them a future female CRO project, where we identify, and like all those, like, we've created a podcast and did all these things, and all those women are now CROs. So it's like, you're helping the future. And now I'm just starting to engage in a project with John Millard called the CMO Project. So watch it's coming shortly. We're just kicking it off. G2 is one of the underwriter co-sponsors of it. And it's really about like, how do we make sure that the role of the CMO remains at the table and remains strategic? Because we are under siege, and like
interesting.
brand's still important. Like, we're not just pipe engines, and we have opinions on the market. And when you see like a CMO leave, and then they're like, oh, and they parse up marketing and they put a little bit under product, a little like, or tucking the CMO under the head of sales. Like, no, like stop.
Sydney,
Don't
I'm
do
sitting
that.
here going like, okay, so being in customer success, and you know this from your past experience, I have felt that we were the only function under siege, that we were the ones that everyone was coming for, right? Because they want to dismantle us and they want to put us under product, or they put us here and
Right.
here and here. And like, I feel like it's like a puzzle that they're trying to fit us anywhere. So I guess because I've been so consumed with my own fears about what's happening to our profession, I didn't realize that marketing, that you guys have similar concerns.
Oh yeah, in a big way. I didn't realize this, that the role of the CMO didn't really come about until the 90s. There was like heads of brands and consumer companies, but like a true CMO in tech like didn't really exist. Like when you think about it, like IBM the brand, Xerox the brand, there might be events and things like that, but like and product marketing might have been in the product team. So like them having us having a seat at the table was relatively new, but absolutely. And we're doing a survey right now, so we'll have like some data on it, as well as my goal is to tell the story of 100 women, and so we'll learn what it's like. Yes, 100% it's under siege. Yes, we the role is in and I'm actually part of a group called Empowered CMO, funny enough, and we talk about that there too, and how do we stay not just there's an initiative inside that group of being the chief market officer, not marketing. Like we're the only one that's an adjective, right? Your customer success, someone is revenue.
I never thought twice about that.
And so we need to be the chief market officers. So if you look at my LinkedIn, that's my title. And really, like, we need to be the experts in the market and then define our position within it. And then the tactics are the marketing part. But like that is our job. And so defining strategy and go to market alignment with the sales teams, and like that is where the strategic sits. And like if you're the last person that presents at the board meeting and you're just giving the pipeline update, like I don't think you're in the role of strategic yet. And you should be the first. We should be the first presentation talking about the market, what's happening, the trends, what our competitors are doing, how we're responding, what the opportunity is, what partnerships should we be looking at forging in a stronger way. And then I'm a big fan too of like co-presenting with the head of sales to just show the relationship between sales and marketing and the partnership there. But yeah, like, a lot of times we're last.
It's like you're giving me a completely different perspective here, because I have not had that exposure. So I didn't even know that was a thing, right? Like I'm too consumed with what's happening in customer success that I didn't think twice about it, because for me, in my experiences, sales marketing and product had almost always come before customer success, or maybe we got before product because we were kind of like all go to market-ish. But I not only was I never first, I never thought I could be first, but now I actually feel very strongly that I could position the customer should be at the forefront of that conversation, just the same way you're talking about the market being, right? Like, so I think we can all advocate for different things, but I never realized that you guys had a very different experience and you guys were seeing different things.
Yeah, no, I absolutely are seeing it. And Kristi, I think too, just like given the change in the SaaS world right now, NRR is the most important metric. So why wouldn't you be first?
Girl,
right?
I've been trying to tell this to everybody, but nobody wants to listen to me. So I'm just trying to not be last right now.
Just move,
right?
Just move your slides to the front. Like,
I just don't want to be last. I'm like, whoever speaks last loses. I don't know, like in my head. Okay. Well,
but
that
it's
is
also
really
the most remembered. So you could take, you could look at it both ways, right? Like when you're in interviews, first and last are the best two places. So you could be the most memorable. Just saying.
You know what? That's part. You guys can take first. I'll take last then. So we'll put marketing first and customer success last. Love that. Okay. We'll squeeze everybody else in the middle.
Two sides of the bow tie. There you go.
Okay. Well, listen, one thing I want to do is make sure that we have time to leave some advice for our listeners, because obviously you have shared a wealth of your journey with us today, and we super appreciate that. But if you had to offer one piece of advice, what would you want our listeners to take away with them today?
Just be fearless, right? Like, don't worry about being perfect. Take the risk, raise your hand. You can create your own destiny. You really, really can. And while maintaining your balance, pick the things like that example that I gave around Adobe, and like turned customer marketing into strategic account insights, and, represented 250 million, in revenue. Or it's actually probably more than that, but, look for the opportunity, take advantage of it, raise your hand, go for it. Don't apologize, and do not apologize. Do not apologize.
I love that. I think that is refreshing advice that we all need to continue to hear, because it doesn't matter how many times we hear it, it's never enough. So I appreciate that being the message that we're leaving everyone with today. Sydney, thank you so much for your time. Your journey has obviously been so inspiring to me, and I know our listeners are going to take away so much with them. So I'm just wishing you continued success in all that you do, and just really grateful for the time you've given us today.
My pleasure. It was awesome.
Thank you. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much. If you stayed this long and listened to this entire episode, we are grateful. Please head over to Spotify, go rate and follow us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe on YouTube, connect with us both on LinkedIn, and Sydney's links will be in the show notes. So please go check it out, connect with her there. And until next time, thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Hi, guys. I want to share a bit about an organization that I support called Wednesday Women. They're on a mission to increase the visibility of executive women leaders that you should know, learn from, and be inspired by. On LinkedIn, they share the profile of 2 amazing women each week, on Wednesdays, of course. And now just imagine if we all followed, amplified, and nominated the women that we want to see more of. Their initiative provides examples of women CEOs, founders, sales executives, technical leaders, and so many more. By supporting Wednesday Women, you'll see more of these professionals in your social feeds, of course, but also on stages, podcasts, and panels. If you're interested in learning more and supporting their initiative, head over to www.wednesdaywomen.org or follow them on LinkedIn.